let us start the first session, Business Ethics. And friends, this first session will be deliberated by Mr. Hargovind Sachdev, former General Manager, State Bank of India. I would like to introduce Mr. Hargovind Sachdev with all the participants. Mr. Hargovind Sachdev, former General Manager, State Bank of India, has over 39 years of banking experience, having occupied senior position in UCO Bank, United Bank of India, State Bank of Patiala, State Bank of Travancore, State Bank of India, where he headed the Central European Credit Desk at Frankfurt, Germany, covering 15 countries of Central Europe. Mr. Sachdev has undergone international banking training from Asian Institute of Management, Manila, Philippines, and multi-currency lending technique training at Euro Money Institute, London. Mr. Hargovind Sachdev has specialization in credit, foreign exchange, vigilance, monitoring, and appraisal of corporate loans, MSME credit, gold loans, agriculture loan, NRI business management in assets and liabilities. Mr. Hargovind Sachdev is an independent director and consultant to various big entities in the corporate sector at present. So I welcome Mr. Hargovind Sachdev to kindly start your first session on business ethics.
आना तेरा मुबारक तशरीफ लाने वाले खुशियां मना रहे हैं तुम सबको बुलाने वाले. It's great honor to pay our respects to each one of you who have spared their valuable time on this weekend evening late into the night and adorned their presence in this auspicious seminar. I really pay respects on behalf of Banking Quest, because Banking Quest is in a mission to enlighten bankers and various peoples associated with financial lendings to enrich their experience and be a benefit to society. The most apt topic which is relevant today in a competitive banking world where compromise is the order of day is ethics. So friends, everybody, each one of us, if we work out, has experience of more than 20 years in banking and has been leading ethical life, thereby bringing the bank up into the customer profile and customers' respects. All this has happened because of the hard work put in by each one of you. While respecting those sentiments, I honor you with this couplet. I say that तालीम नहीं दी जाती परिंदों को उड़ानों की, वो तो खुद ही समझ लेते हैं ऊंचाई आसमानों की. All of you know what exactly is the importance of ethics in each banker's life today. Unless we are ethical, we will not be able to serve the society for which the banks are meant. We will also not be able to save our careers, because sooner or later, unethical behavior gets caught up. And then, as Mr. Tansale said in his opening remarks, we end up facing CBI and various local, polices, investigations, and ruin our career and our families. So ethics is one of the most important things. Friends, ethics is a concept of right and wrong conduct. It is an accepted group of certain virtues which each one of us agree. The best thing about ethics is that it thinks about others. If I do something wrong, how the others will feel. If I speak loudly, whether my neighbors will be disturbed. If I play loudspeaker late in the night, whether people or the students who are writing examinations will lose their focus. So ethics is actually the only thing which is worried more about third party, about the society, about the country, about the world, about the humanity. So it's one of the most important virtues to be inculcated in each one of us. We are bestowed with intelligence and we know what is good or bad. But then the ethics, further narrow down the norms of behavior, which are very, very relevant to the place where we are working or the situations where we are interacting. We today will be focusing on the importance of business ethics in banks, because banks are the change. Banks are the medium which can really bring in the economic revolution and the happiness. Friends, ethics guide us to make this world a better place to live. So let's begin. Let's begin with the importance of business ethics with a historical incident from Ramayana. Ramayana has been more of a management book teaching us the value of ethics. I will quote only a small incident which in 1532 Goswami Tulsidas has written. The value of ethics here shown by Lord Rama is what we have to follow. Friends, what happens is that the ethics, they are tested in the extreme times when we are under total distress or pressure. Then we start compromising with ethics. In Indian culture, suppose my mother is sick, or I have a wedding in the family, or I have a huge money to pay for my daughter's education, then I try for loan, and then if I don't get it, I compromise on my ethics. I take some bribes or some compromise. That is the time when we have to really avoid such things, such compromises. And then if we really come out winner of these situations, we are called as ethical. In Ramayana, when the war with Ravana was at its peak, Ravana's eldest son, Meghnad, came out with his best weaponry, which had divine blessings, and fired an arrow on the younger brother of Lord Rama, called Lakshman, we all know. Lakshman, virtually lost his life and was lying and breathing his last when Susheshan, the family Vaidya, came and said that if this particular plant from Himalayas could be brought in before the sun rises in the morning, probably Lakshmana will survive. So the job was given to Hanuman, the chief lieutenant of that war with Rama. And Hanuman, even though he was very powerful, probably could not remember the exact shape of the medicine, the plant which was required as a Sanjeevani booty. So he brought the entire mountain which was having such plants growing on them. While passing over Ayodhya, he was sighted by Rama's brother Bharat. Bharat was actually deputizing for Lord Rama in Ayodhya those days, because Lord Rama was observing 14 years of Banavas ordered by his father. So when Lord Bharat saw a huge monkey carrying a mountain over Ayodhya, he fired an arrow which hit the feet of Hanuman, and Hanuman fell down with the mountain. Now, immediately the forces of Bharat were rushed to Hanuman, and he was asked to explain why he was carrying such a dangerous thing over Ayodhya, which might hurt the residents of Ayodhya. Hanuman, while falling, said Ram, 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 because of the pain in his leg. When Bharat heard the word Ram, he immediately questioned Hanuman, why you are uttering Ram, Ram? Ram is the Raja of this place. I am deputizing for him. How do you know Ram? Then Bajrangbali said that Ram right now is fighting to bring back his wife from Ravana, and they are in a big advanced war in Lanka. Suddenly your other brother Lakshman has got injured, and I am carrying these plants which might revive his life. So please let me go. Why did you hit me in my leg? I was on a very, very important mission. On learning that Lakshman is injured, Bharat got, extremely exasperated, and then said, let us, take all our elephants, all our warriors, all our army, along with the army of Sita's father, Janak, which is also nearby, and then attack Ravana and win over and bring back Sita. See here where the ethics came into picture for the first time, which I can imagine, which was almost 3,500 years ago. Here, Hanuman could agree to take the help of Bharat, but he understood the aim of Ram. Ram was serving 14 years of Vanvas, and if he had taken the help of Bharat at that time and won over Ravan, probably he would have compromised on his ethics because he wanted to obey his father and show to the world that he was very ethical. So immediately Hanuman, on behalf of Ram, said that Ram will fight his war alone and will not take any help from Bharat or Raja Janak. So friends, this is where the ethics initially come into our knowledge when we look into our religious books. And my message to each one of you is that ethics get tested at the very, very precious time when you are very weak, but you should ensure that you do not compromise on ethics. Banking is a business of ethics. You deal with money which is third party. People have taken a lot of pains and created that fund. If you compromise and waste that fund, you are deceiving the masses. Banking has been an integral part of life. If you study the history of banking, you will realize how valuable it is to the society. When the empires expanded in the initial days, the collection centers concept was evolved to collect taxes and distribute wealth. Then slowly coins of precious gold and silver were issued. Temples were the earliest banks, as the same were headed by priests whom the kings and the commoner trusted alike as embodiment of ethics, honesty, trust, and truthfulness. There were lack of steel almirahs and there was no residential security. As such, people used to trust the pujari and keep their coins with the priest in the temple basements. And at the instruction of those owners of those coins, the priest used to lend those coins to the needy people and collect them back with interest in the shape of more smaller coins along with the major coin. This saga of ethical operations through a third party trust actually gave to what is called as banking. Friends, since times immemorial, bankers are treated like pujaris. Bankers have been trusted as ethical and more close to our own relatives and friends because we trust bankers more for securing our money than our relatives. So, friends, it is time to realize that situation, that expectation of the society, and work like pujaris, with selflessness and let people flourish with their funds because of the honest dealing of that money by each one of us. Friends, what exactly is ethics? The term ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means custom, habit, character, or disposition. Ethics is actually a system of moral principles. It reflects how people make decisions and lead their lives. Ethics is concerned with what is good for individuals, enterprises like banks, and society. Ethics provide knowledge about morally good or bad behavior. Ethics lay down principles that govern a person's or a bank's behavior to conduct day-to-day activities. Ethics measure human conduct that deal with what are right things and what are wrong principles. Ethics is a code of moral values, friends. It is a code of principles and values of a business enterprise, which is used while interacting with all its stakeholders, whether they are the owners, whether they are the workers, whether they are the depositors, or whether they are investors into the bank shares. Friends, ethics actually has very limited essence. We have to focus on those, three essences to really actualize the value of ethics in our life. Ethics cover three dilemmas. Those are how to live a good life, to lead, a life full of accomplishments, happiness. Then what exactly are our rights and what are our responsibilities? What is the language of right and what is the language of wrong? Ethics teaches us these three basic qualities, and we also learn what exactly are the moral decisions, what is good and what is evil. Ethics is actually a set of beliefs held in common by a group. Same human behavior is ethical or unethical in different situations. Now, this is the best thing about ethics. It can differ from situation to situation, and mature people understand the difference of those situations. See, chopping off hands as punishment for stealing is acceptable ethics in the Gulf. We have seen if somebody steals somebody, goods, then the minimum punishment is given is chopping of hands. That's a major punishment seen in other part of the world, but it is ethical in Gulf. Chopping of hands of an accident patient to save the body from ginger is a righteous act by doctors worldwide. If the doctor chops a hand, he's not a murderer, he's not a person who has violated any ethics, he's only saving the life and the body of the patient from worsening further. Similarly, chopping of hands in angry retaliation is not ethical conduct to conduct. So ethics may differ from situation to situation, but a mature person will understand the violation of those ethics given in a situation. You find that kissing in public is ethical in Europe. Here, because the population is dwindling, people are permitted to kiss in public or in churches. But if this thing happens in Gulf, if even in a driving car somebody complains that people in the car seats are misbehaving as per their ethics, then the drivers will be punished. Similarly, marrying outside the religion at one time was considered as an unethical practice, but now ethics have changed. Now intercaste marriages are accepted way of life. So friends, ethics keep changing from situation to situation, and we have to modulate our perception of ethics as per the situations which evolve. There are basically three types of ethics. Ethics actually defines principles of decent human conduct in life and profession. It serves as a guide for dealing with complex moral issues and conflicts. The three types of broad divisions of ethics are: the first one is called as meta ethics. It is what you expect opponents to do to you in a game and what they expect you to do to them. See, you enter into a game, whether it is hockey or football or a boxing. In boxing, you expect that he will punch you on your nose, on your eyes, on your face. That is part of the game. So here, hitting is under meta ethics accepted as a part of the game. And you can also do the same thing. It is mutually agreed. It reflects currently popular strategies and tactics and counter strategies in a game. In game, you have to be extremely competitive and see that you come out as a winner and the other ends up as a loser. Game doesn't mean that both of you evolve as winner and winner. It is a game of asserting the supremacy of one individual or the other, and it is accepted as a meta ethics. Then the second type of ethics is normative ethics. It is a mutually agreed criteria in society of designating some actions as reasonable, desirable, or permissible, and others as harmful, undesirable, or improper, and branding as what is right or wrong at the current time. Now, right now, I'm in Canada. Here, some people have become sick due to corona. Now, in India also, you cannot visit a corona patient. But here the ethics is that you cannot ask your neighbor what type of disease he is suffering from. It will be intruding into his privacy. In India, we visit people when they are unwell, and first thing we ask is what disease you are having. See, so in this part of the world, that is the Western part, we find that asking the disease is undesirable. What type of problem is facing should not be asked. In India, if we do not ask, people will say he came, he did not ask me what sort of disease I am suffering from. So ethics, they are normative. They are accepted by the group of people belonging to a particular region or zone. or a particular group. The last type of ethics is applied ethics, which is, used because of the development of a situation. We are seeing Ukraine is at war with Russia. Now, this is a situation where Russia has its own problems, why it started the war. Ukraine has its own issues. Now, this is a sort of an applied ethics where people are at war to settle their concerns. Then, sometimes we feel that animals, should be given proper food, should not be, left into the streets. They should be pets. So whether we accept that or not, some people will love to have cats in their houses, some will not like, some will have, dogs as pets. So this is all ethical, whether you love the animal or you do not love. If you do not love, then it is also applied that you do not love it. There is nothing wrong in your not loving animals. Divorces, if the marriages, they say, are made in heaven and broken on earth. So if a divorce is happening, then there will be an applied ethics. We will study whether there was a home violence, whether there was an exploitation, whether there was a fraud, or whether, the people engaged in marriage, they were, crossing each other's, perception of a respectful marriage. Similarly, capital punishments in countries, where we have seen that people are hanged till death. This issue of applied ethics comes when it is a terrorist who has killed thousands of people. Then if he is hanged in public, it is accepted, applied ethics. If an innocent person is hanged, it is not accepted. So friends, ethics can be very perceptive, very situational. The main topic of today is actually the professional ethics. And professional ethics is a combination of meta, normative, and applied ethics. It is all into one. When you are interacting at the bank, you have to inculcate all these three types of things. You have to give loan with very, very clean hands, very happily, because you want that his dreams, should be accomplished. But at the same time, you have to file suit, sell his house if he doesn't pay. So these are, combination of ethics. Same when I was branch manager of some of branches, I had 3 field officers, appraising loans and giving them. Another 3 officers were there who were recovering loans. And after 6 months, I used to put these 3 officers in recovery and those 3 back into sanctions, and then they used to do the reverse of the jobs. So it was very ethical because the conduct of the customer has resulted in changing the orientation of my ethics. So in banks, you have to encompass the personal and corporate standards of behavior which are expected from you as a professional. Banking ethics comprise of honesty, trustworthiness, transparency, accountability, confidentiality, objectivity, respect, obedience to the law, and loyalty. Friends, these are very high sounding words, but each one of them is relevant. With my 39 years of very active experience in various banks worldwide, I found that if I am lacking in any of this, then I have lost a customer. Friends, banking industry is totally run on professional ethics. There is nothing. You cannot go on gifting a customer to retain him. You just cannot go on waiving the processing charges or reducing interest to retain him. Ultimately, customer will say whether the bank is ethical. His officers, as Mr. Tangsale said, whether they are ethical, then only the customer retention will be there. Otherwise, the job of doing business will be a futile exercise. Friends, what are the ethics and why are they important in banks? Banking is the most sacred profession in the world, built entirely around ethics. As I said in the opening, we are like pujaris of goddess Lakshmi. Lakshmi is only given to us to worship so that it grows for the person who has given that Lakshmi to us. Banks enjoy high leverage as they can raise substantial amount of uncollateralized deposits and perform the function of liquidity and maturity transformation. See, I opened Sarojini Nagar branch in Delhi in 1986 when it was very difficult to mobilize funds. I took only 5,000 rupees as advance from suspense account of Karol Bagh branch, which was an existing branch, and opened the branch with a table and chair and a counter those days. You will not believe, very first day we got 8 lakh deposit. Those days it was very big. I'm speaking of 1986. And then today that branch is 3,000 crore. A small office opened in trust has been flooded with money. There was a time when we had to put board of time norms that please come and collect your passbook next week. Please come and collect the FDR after 3 days, because we were flooded. The trust was so much of State Bank that people were falling over each other to deposit with us. So banks enjoy high leverage as they can raise substantial amount of uncollateralized deposit. I had not given any security to anyone. I had just put a board of State Bank of India and money started pouring there. Friends, ethical banking operates on a core set of principles and ideals that implement etiquette in dealing with the third party money in trust. There has to be an etiquette how you deal with that money which is given to you in trust. Ethical banking prescribes how to interact with clients, how to service the society and community for which these banks are established, and how to reward investors and stakeholders equitably. Friends, the primary ethical asset of banking is providing timely funds to depositors and borrowers and book only optimum profits to keep the transaction costs low. If, rickshaw puller will be coming, depositing, from his hard-earned savings for his daughter's wedding. And on the due date, if you do not give him back his money, what will be his fate? A businessman having employees running into hundreds, if he comes to you on a salary day and you do not honor his check for salary, what will happen to these masses associated with him? So friends, banking displays ethical behavior through transparent accounting standards, checked, rechecked, and cross-checked periodically. Most of the banker friends, they phone to me, sir, फिर ऑडिट चल रहा है, फिर ऑडिट चल रहा है, अब दूसरा ऑडिट आ गया, अब इस बार तो आरबीआई का ऑडिट आ गया. I tell them, all these are Agni Parikshas. They are making the gold shine better. More you are checked and cross-checked and rechecked, more powerful you evolve in the eyes of the public. Friends, cyclicality of funds in the society for the empowerment of masses is what the ethics are required in a bank. If you do not return or even demand back the funds which have been lent, then you create non-cyclicative funds, and then the last mile beneficiaries who are waiting for the benefits to percolate to them to upgrade their lives, they are denied those funds. Importance of business ethics in banks undoubtedly is very, very important. Banking is entirely a trust-based business. Trust is based on the belief that banks handle business with integrity. Bank's reputation for integrity is more valuable than its cash, determined by the conduct of employees at all levels. We have seen so many banks, failing despite having huge deposit base, huge customer base, because their top managements, they behaved, or even the middle level behaved in a way which, was a compromise on their integrity. Banks are trusted due to substantial compliance. This is another factor. Compliance can be done by only ethical persons. If you are, expected to report a transaction on a Friday, and if you don't do it, or you just repeat the previous Friday's transaction, then you're not ethical. When I was posted in State Bank of India, Germany, there the guideline was that every Friday evening, you have to address to the Bundesbank Bonn, Germany, that is the Reserve Bank equivalent of Germany. Every Friday night, you have to tell your demand and time liabilities. Now, if you do not tell, then they used to impose a financial penalty of 5,500 euros those days. That 5,000 was understandable, but what is this 5,500? I realized this is 500 euro over and above 5,000 was to be debited to the account, that is the personal account of the officer who has not reported on time. See, this is the ethical standard international banks are observing in Germany, where not only bank is penalized, but the officer who has been entrusted with the responsibility of reporting and does not report. And they used to ask access to his personal account to verify from Bonn whether his account has been actually debited or not. So unless we be totally substantially compliant to the various norms of the local regulators, we cannot be called as an ethical banker. I remember SBI New York, we had difficulties because in 2008, a lot of money came without KYC verification from various part of the world to America through SBI. Then for some time, they asked us to observe only narrow banking. And you know what is narrow banking? Narrow banking is that you cannot add more accounts. You cannot, go for marketing. You cannot add staff or branches. So because our ethical standards were being cross-verified at stage because of the flood of some unsubstantiated, unlawful money into US through our medium, we were subjected to ethical check by the US Fed Reserve. So friends, if we would not have passed that test, probably SBI would not have been there in US, and maybe worldwide its reputation would have got, sort of in turmoil, and it would have lost the edge. Now it is world's largest banker in branch wise. We would have lost its reputation. So banks are trusted due to substantial compliance. Clients operate banking online instead of dealing with personal bankers. This is a fact now emerging. Therefore, banks' image should exude basic ethics of honesty, integrity, truth, and trust. Friends, we should give an image. Not only we should be ethical, but we should always give a perception worldwide that we are really ethical through our conduct, through the conduct of our officers. Friends, there are steps to make banks as repositories of ethics. I'll just go through some of those steps. The first one is you maintain customer confidence and a good reputation with clients. See, what happens is, especially in case of distressed loans, I find that the moment a NPA borrower enters the branch premises, people look towards him as a thief. They do not appreciate his situation, maybe because of economic condition or death of a person in his family, or death of a key or resignation of a key, operative in his industry. He would have been in distress, but we always brand him as a thief or a person who has run away with bank's money. Now, we should not demean a customer's esteem. There have been complaints from various NPA borrowers that they came to the bank with 50,000 in the bank to repay, but the staff started shouting at them, and they deposited only 5,000 and came back with 45,000 without depositing because they were personally demeaned. So you have to maintain the customer confidence and a good reputation with the clients as a first step to make bank your branch as a repository of ethics. Second thing is understand bank's social license to promote welfare of the society. The best thing is the bank is not for staff alone. It may be for you, you earn your salary through hard work, but bank is basically for customers. The license is given to upgrade the society, the social standing, and the personal net worth of the individuals who are associated with banks has to go up because of our services. Third point is that we have to implement positive corporate culture and a dedicated, motivated, and ethical workforce. Talking of ethics should not be a department, as we were just discussing, that some of the banks have opened now ethical departments. It's not that ethical department alone or its head should alone talk of ethics. Ethics should be talked across the bank, all along. Everybody should, not only do, but also think ethically, so that the bank survives. We have seen banks here in Europe and US who have crossed 300 years of existence. 300 years. Just because they have been ethical, they have been, standing to the expectations of their customers. Friends, the fourth is that you have to minimize financial risk, avoiding legal issues. This is most important. What happens is the board of directors, will suddenly see that the corporate credit is, caught up with various big banks and they're making huge money. But we being an MSME bank or a traders bank, if we plunge into such type of policy changes and take financial risks which are not in our culture and ethos, we will end up acting unethically to our stakeholders who had given us funds or deposits to continue dealing with the business which we have been doing for so long. So we have to minimize financial risk and invest the fund of customers into the accepted risk profiles rather than entering into legal issues by over lending and doing unethical lending. Friends, basic ethical principles in banking can be visited as follows. Before inviting a customer to join as a client with our bank, you have to be mentally prepared to serve his or her needs on liability and asset sides of banking business. See, what happens is we'll go for a salary account to a corporate, and suddenly 300 salary accounts will be opened. We'll be very happy. PNB segment has grown. But when the corporate comes, okay, my 300 employees and my managing director are banking with you, give us loan, we go back. So mentally, if we are approaching a corporate for business, we should be prepared for wholesale services to him. Some of the employees of that corporate may need personal loans, lockers, personal LC business, guarantees, and various other facilities. We must be ready. They may ask your advice for investment in mutual funds and various other, profit-making businesses which your bank renders. You should not hesitate. You said, no, you are only having a salary account. Basic ethics is that you have to offer a comprehensive package. Then always protect the existing clients by ensuring a proper KYC of all new incumbents. What happens is, we think that existing customers are not bothered if I'm not verifying the KYC of others. But it is not so. Every new entrant in the bank is a threat, not only to the bank, but to the existing customer also. Suppose a 5 lakh credit comes into the account of a newly opened account where KYC is not verified, and suddenly he withdraws. Then you cannot compensate. You cannot debit the new account and pay back to the old customer. He is being exposed to the risk of not conducting proper KYC. So best ethic in banking is to conduct proper KYC and observe a very strong gatekeeping to all new entrants as customers to the bank. You have to create an ambience of safety and security on both online and offline banking. What is happening is in a surge of online banking, lots of banks, they have come out with a platform which is not firewalled properly. A lot of frauds are happening. I was reading an article in Canadian newspaper where he said that in Southeast Asia, India is one of the largest economies where 100 crore worth of frauds happen every day in banking. I couldn't cross-check that figure, but somebody has written that article, quoting various instances and averaging it. 100 crore worth of frauds happening in Indian industry. Why then, how you think that pension funds from Canada, US will go and invest in banking equity there? Because banks are fragile. We must have an ambience of safety and security on both online and offline banking platforms. That is the most important ethical responsibility of all of us. We have to take measured risks with clients' funds to build confidence and sustain long-term. We should not finance rockets or various missions to the moons sitting in a small bank there, because those things are not mandated to us. We have to maintain utmost confidentiality of transactions also. This is very important. This is the main principle of banking, that you have to maintain confidentiality even under most hyper marketing situations, we should not divulge the name of customers who are reposing their confidence in us by bringing their hard-earned income. Friends, what to provide to a visiting customer? Basically, while I was CVO of UCO Bank and United Bank of India, I had this opportunity of dwelling deep into the expectations of a visiting customer. So out of that, I will just share a few thoughts. See, out of a few benefits the customer expects from a banker is the statement of account. That is the first thing to be provided at regular intervals. If no statement is provided, the relationship starts breaking. Most of the places we have found that the bank is not telling the customer what he has. I was in charge of NRI operations of State Bank of Travancore and was traveling to 5 countries in the Gulf. I used to hold conferences and take feedback of NRIs. Most of the guys will say, "Saab, mujhe pata nahi. I have remitted 100,000 rupees 10 days ago into my account in Kerala. I have not got statement. I do not know whether I can issue check to my wife who is waiting for children fee to be deposited." So NRIs, who are, source of major funds. We had 40,000 crore worth of savings account deposits from NRIs, but NRIs in Gulf were, literally weeping because most of the banks, not only State Bank, most of the banks who were in Kerala, including private sector banks, were not customer savvy. They were not able to provide, online connectivity or a statement of accounts or checkbooks or debit cards in time. Majority of the customers, join banks to keep deposit. Mr. Tansale has been our, IBA chairman also. You will not, appreciate that the number of loan accounts in most of the bank is hardly 9% of the deposit accounts. If there are today 45 crore SB accounts and current accounts in SBI, hardly, 4.5 crore are the loan accounts. So, most of the people who join your bank do not expect any loan. It is only now, once you have started flooding people with advertisement of car loan, education loan, and personal loans, people have started taking loans. Banks were only approached by majority of people for keeping their funds safe. And if we cannot give the statement, we are not ethical. This is a basic requirement. A person will want to know how his corpus is getting built up. Most of the people will come to the bank for financial advice. Bankers should be minimally aware of important things like an HUF account, an RE account, succession rules, nomination, NRI procedures, how to open an NRI, what is an NRO account, what is the company law for a company to open account with you, whether a foreign entity can open an account, what are the various income tax laws on the interest a person who is banking with you will be subjected to, what are various methods of investment which can get better yield but are still safe, what are the CSR rules, legal implications of statutory violations and all those things. If minimal knowledge is imparted to the person sitting at the counter, that is enough. That is enough for him to conduct an ethical banking and satisfy the appetite of information in the visiting customer. Regular audit by third parties enhances the bank's reputation. I submitted in the beginning. More you are checked, rechecked and cross-checked, more you shine as a banker. Friends, the right of customer must be displayed and honored to sustain a reciprocal and everlasting relationship ethically. Friends, now, what is the behavior of a customer if we are ethical or if we are lacking the ethics? I have dwelt on this issue also as a CVO, and I find that important part to focus is on value of customer's time. This is the most important ethical thing. What happens is we are mostly busy now on mobile phones while attending to the customer or absent from the seat. Now, a customer has only few minutes in the bank. Banking is your business, your employment, your bread and butter. It is a minuscule part of activity of a customer. Customer, he just comes to bank to observe the small part of his activity, and he never comes to the bank to while away time. Maybe some old customers, pensioners, they come and read newspapers, but they are doing this because as a banker, you are not attending to them properly in time. You are not giving value to their time. So no customer comes to bank to while away any time. Fast and efficient handling of transaction is core to the banking relationship. Friends, more customers now operate online and through ATMs. Not many have seen their bank in their lifetime, especially the young generation. They do not know where their bank is. So ethical behavior demands immediate attention to the customer transaction for quick disposal, both offline and online. Our online activity also should be, very, very customer savvy and very responsive but safe. This is what is the present day, germinating ethics to sustain customers. Friends, I was in Germany and was, learning experience there. The only product a banker sells is what? Credit. It can be in the shape of a loan. It can be in the shape of a debt. It can be in the shape of an equity participation. It can be in the shape of a letter of credit. It can be in the shape of a bank guarantee. The only thing we sell is credit. So German Bundesbank has advised, it's an advisory to various banks operating there. In one of these main streets, there are 136 international banks operating there. That is called as Mainzer Landstrasse, Frankfurt, Germany. See, friends, there, I found that German banks have a 3-visit policy for a customer seeking loan. It is an ethical practice there. In the first visit, the loan scheme is explained with details of interest rate, maturity of the loan, down payment required as a margin, and the security. The person sees my website, says, okay, sir, you're financing a car. I have come to you. Please explain me these things. What will be the interest? What will be the maturity period? What will be the down payment margin from my side? And what is the security? So in that first meeting, these things are explained. In the second visit, you just finalize the credit terms with him and say, okay, your income is this much, so you cannot get 7 years, you'll have to repay in 5 years. And we are receiving this application, and we'll do a check on the supplier, whether he's a genuine car supplier. We'll also finalize your KYC, we'll see your CIBIL reports, your credit check, whether you deserve it or not, and we'll come with a decision. On the third visit, which is the final visit, the loan is either sanctioned or rejected. In India, after third visit, we tell the customer that his file is misplaced and we are not able to trace his documents. But in Germany, in third visit, you have to release the loan. And the irony is that in third visit, if you don't release the lien, the Bundesbank has given a prerogative to the customer to go and issue the check to the supplier of the vehicle, and you'll have to honor that check. He'll create the security in your favor online. Now, these are the norms, these are the ethical norms for a banker. But what we are doing in India these days, we are making people come again and again and again and again, and it's taking more than 3 to 6 months to sanction a loan. And then what is happening is he's repaying us, not financially, he is repaying us because of the repeated visits he had to make by not paying our loan. He says, okay, you come 100 times and then recover your money, go to courts. So friends, if we are not ethical, the customer will also not be ethical to us. There is no need for customer to keep coming to bank for months to follow loan application. If a customer is harassed, then he has his prerogatives. Friend, this is ethical banking, and this has resulted in very low NPAs due to customer satisfaction. And that is what bank is meant for. Friends, there is another concept in international banking which we must emulate sitting in India. See, in India, we have people like Mr. Tansale and various other CEOs. Now there is a crop or 2 crops of retired EDs, MDs, and senior level CGMs and executive directors who are available. But most of the bank cases are being referred to ordinary courts. The courts are overflooded with legal problems. They are dealing in civil, in criminal, and various other offenses, and judges have no knowledge, no depth of the intricacies of banking. Where a diversion can be done, where you can do temporary ad hoc enhancement, things like that, which are very technical in nature to banking, are not available to judges because they are so preoccupied in the judicial assignments. In Europe, companies have disputes with banks, are being referred to bank adalats and leased to courts. Most of these bank adalat type organizations exist in Europe and US. These adalats are headed by bankers and who understand the credit better than the legal judges. There's no doubt about it, because banking is also evolving and it has own intricacies in legal compliances or credit obligations to be met. So here, part-time heads of the or retired bankers, they are posted as judges, and cases are decided at the stage of what we call in India as a 7-0, 1 or 2. If 30 days default is there, it is immediately referred, and they will say, okay, they will call the promoter and he will give a business plan how he will come out of SMA 0, 1 or 2. And then and there, the cases are decided, and they do not cross 6 months of being, under stress. Full provisioning. And then another thing is that the banking is so transparent that it does not want to fool the, shareholders or the stock market. There is a full provisioning is mandatory so that a true picture of bank profit is visible to stakeholders. In India, we have in NBFCs, this guideline where they have to provide maximum provisioning. But here in Europe and US, if the account has become NPA, we have, SMA, then we have substandard, then DA1, DA2, and then loss asset, and then subject to the value of security. No, nothing. Here they say, if the account has become a non-performing asset, irrespective of the security you hold, you just make full provision. And then if you recover, you make that entry into your profit and P&L and then enjoy. So bank balance sheets are comparatively clean and ethical. Friends, this is what, as bankers, you all can evolve and make your bank as a model for the entire world. Friends, there are ethical challenges being faced by Indian banks. We have to, we cannot deny that India is a different facet. It's a different way because we have been deprived for hundreds of years. Most of the people, have struggled in life. For them, getting financial help has more or less been a lottery. It's a sort of a dream they accomplish. So India has been, because of the deprivation under the British rule, majority of the people, had very poor or weak cash flows because there were not many industries brought in by the Englishmen or the former rulers. The Western EMI system repaying 12 installments in a year is impractical due to inadequate social systems. In Europe, you see, if you fall sick, the ambulance will come, they will treat you free of cost, and then every month they'll put money in your account. I have got 2 grandchildren. Every grandchildren is getting $250 by the social department of the Canadian government without asking, because they want the child to be taken good care of. But in India, no such benefits are there. So when we fix 12 installments as EMI, copying the European model or the American model, we ignore the facts that there is a large commitment in Indian society towards the marriage, towards even a death, towards children admission. Here, the child education is free. There, you have to give a lot of, donations to get your child admitted to a good school. So we are, overlooking those societal implications in our area of operation in India and fixing 12 EMIs. My suggestion is that fix 10 EMIs. Say, okay, 1 EMI at Diwali you need not pay, or 1 EMI when you had an accident, your car was stolen, or your child was unwell, you need not pay. So because there are so many social customs where bulk money or the entire cash flow of an Indian gets distorted and taken away, we should be more practical. We should not copy the 12 EMI model of Europe and US and mess our banking. My suggestion is that we should have ethics of our own. which should, satisfy the social demands of the society. A customized system alone, friends, can work ethically in India. Friends, dissecting the gaps in economic ecosystem is very important. We have these problems also in our society, where verification or cross verification of invoices, stock statements, receivable statements, sundry creditors, which are disclosed to the bank while availing loans, are not possible to be cross-checked. What happens is, even though there is now GST, so a lot of people will bring invoices saying, sir, we have deposited GST, so these are original invoices, genuine invoices. But then a lot of people are doing fake invoicing also, depositing GST. There is no movement of goods, there is no actual sale, but just by paying 18% or 5% GST, they say that they have made a sale of crores of rupees. So our ecosystem has these flaws, which are not there in outside, India. Similarly, our stock statements, in last 38 years, I could not find a genuine stock statement. Everywhere you could either find the flaws, like the receivables mentioned there were more than 90 days, although the permissible limit was 90 days. Then, the sundry creditors were not deducted. Payment made under LC was shown as stocks fully owned by the company. So it is very cumbersome. We have to improve our economic ecosystem, which should work in tangent with banking system. There should be solid check on fake invoices. There should be, proper teaching of the borrower that he has to remove sundry creditors while disclosing the value of fully paid stocks. Bankers are ending up financing wrong clients due to weak economic ecosystem. We have to improve. It is in our hands. We have to insist on verification. We have to do footwork. We have to go inside the factory and see which are paid stock, which are unpaid stock. We have to call some receivables saying, sir, aapne maal inse kharida hai. Whether you have made the payment or not, whether it is 90 days old, 1 or 2 times you do, the borrower will come around. So legal system also has, to strengthen itself. It's doing wonderfully well, but still it has to strengthen itself to support the bank, to curb the malpractices, and the gaps in economic system should be curbed through our efforts as a banker. Friends, dissecting the embarrassment of many. See, we always thought that overpopulation and multitude of people probably will be an asset to the banking, because they will open accounts, they will provide their funds, and then banks will grow. But somehow this embarrassment of richness or embarrassment of many is also to be managed in a very diligent way to make them a positive and a contributing factor to the growth of Indian economy. We have not been able to harness the strength of India, which is its population. China has done it. Today it has become number 2 economy in world. But we, with similar number of people, are still struggling and way behind in economic development as compared to various other smaller countries. Most Indian banks are indulging in mass banking without proper segmentation. There is nothing wrong in doing mass banking, but you should have, proper segmentation. Today, the owner enters the counter, he's talking when his driver also comes, he's also having savings account in the same counter. So the person dealing with is not able to modulate his style of attending to 2 people of different backgrounds simultaneously. We should have, proper segmentation for each segment of depositors or borrowers who come to us. The aspirational Indians are crowding the banks for economic favors. Banks are now not only, expected to accept deposit or give loans. They are expected to disburse various government, benefits across country, even do KYC, or even do, linking of various instruments of security like Aadhaar card and PAN card and things like that. So state has assigned non-banking jobs to banks, which has squeezed the time available with the banking staff to do the due diligence. As such, the banking staff should be oriented towards using every minute available at the counter to attend to the customer. We have laws which need a relook to delegate the pre-loan checks to the credit rating agencies before a borrower comes to bank. In Europe and in Canada, before you go to bank, you have to take your credit report from a leading agency. Here, also there are 4 credit rating agencies, and by seeing that itself, they will say you are eligible for funding under lender A, B, C, or D. Lender A will give you the minimum rate of interest, but it will be asking for best quality of your credit. Similarly, B will be slightly higher rate of interest, but less quality of your credit. And lastly, the NBFC will give you loan at maximum rate of interest because risk is very high because the credit is low. So that sort of checks should now evolve, because banking, a multitude of people, youngsters, and India with youngest people, who in the world, they want banking facilities. So there should be pre-lending checks by agencies, because bankers are left with very little time. It will be very ethical to share this responsibility with other agencies, so that an economic model can be developed for the benefit of the society. Friends, it is a very, very known facts that unethical behavior actually increases the cost of business. This is very sad part of it, and most of the banks are suffering because of the unethical behavior. In one of the banks where I was CVO, I had 300 vigilance cases. That means almost one case to deal with every day in a year, and the numbers, despite our best efforts, could not come down to even 300, less than 300. So friends, the unethical behavior resulted in lack of promotions and lack of motivation, lack of involvement of the staff. They were worried about their promotions, and they were not taking an interest in the customer. So with most Indian banks bleeding with NPAs, banking has become a challenging business to earn profits. We have seen most of the banks till 1 year ago, they were bleeding. Even SBI in one of the quarters booked losses because of the NPA problem. Now, decision of large credit dispensation taken with soiled hands have resulted in quick mortality of large assets. Most of the time of the banks is now spent in recovery. You will not believe, right now, the biggest branches of the reputed banks are NPA recovery branches, headed by DGMs and GMs. That is the situation which has brought us to unethical behavior. Because of this unethical behavior, the total face of banking is changing. There is no credit growth. You're only financing government companies because you find that probably private sector will not repay your loan. Friends, this is not going to help our economy. We have to be very ethical and very scientific in taking credit decisions, so that, irrespective of whether the client belongs to private or public sector, without compromising on etiquettes of lending, we should give decisions, which should not make them turn into an angry or hostile person. We should remove the culture of reluctance to repay on time. Friends, compromising integrity in credit decision has multiplied the bank losses in terms of provisioning, write-offs, and legal expenses and one-time settlements. Unethical and indiscreet banking behavior has increased the operational costs, making banking an unviable business. संघर्ष के मार्ग पर जो वीर चलता है, वो ही इस संसार को बदलता है. जिसने अंधकार, मुसीबत और खुद से जंग जीती, सूर्य बनकर वही निकलता है. Friends, it is in your hands to bring ethics to bank, because each one of you is a very important fulcrum in the saga of banking industry. We will rush towards the messiah of ethics, the father of nation. Immediately after independence, father of nation Mahatma Gandhi traveled in a train where an old coughing man lay on the opposite berth. The old man repeatedly coughed and spitted the sputum near the berth. None of the accomplices of that old man bothered to stop the patient from spitting on the floor of the train. Nobody, even tried to clean whatever he had thrown. Our father of nation was traveling in the opposite berth. He was a very practicing commoner, you all know. And, he was looking at this condition of the person, old person, and the behavior of the people accompanying him. When next time this old man coughed and wanted to throw the spit on the floor of the berth, Mahatma Gandhi put both his hands before the mouth of that person and took the entire spit in his hand and went to the bathroom, cleaned up his hands, and came back. Friends, that sort of ashamed his accomplices, and they took him to the bathroom and then made him cough well, and then saw that he does not soil the floor of the compartment. Friends, this is what father of nation did in not long ago. This is what is called as ethics, behavior in public. And we are, as a banker, public people, so our behavior should also be like this. If any of our colleague is indulging in corruption, bad practices, we should immediately go and see that he behaves through our activities. We should make him ashamed of what he's doing, because he is bringing bad name to the entire banking sector. Friends, the ethical issues and challenges banking is facing today, we'll rush through. There is inadequate corporate governance in banks. We find that there is a telephone banking of different type. Messages will come from politicians, rich corporates asking for some loan to be given to their known people, acquaintances. That sort of pressure we should not take, because banker is lending the money of third persons. It is not our money. So we have to take a proper due diligence. Banking business model is very different from other business entities, as we are raising huge unsecured funds without much effort. As such, the corporate governance structure and practices in banks should be to protect the interest of depositors and then only lend. We have been over-indulging in cross-selling of insurance, mutual product, mutual funds, and gold bonds and commercial goods, etc. We should do it with the concurrence of the depositors and not force to do mis-selling. Otherwise, it will be, ultimately ending up like what LIBOR, I had done one seminar. LIBOR also ended up from word, all of you know, LIBOR is no more there, because some of the banks who were, prescribing the pricing of LIBOR started adding unnecessary profit to that and started cheating the other banks who were following LIBOR, and ultimately it had to go. So friends, we have to observe corporate governance, and we have to strengthen the oversight and assurance functions. With the growth in size, the focus on the adequacy of the governance framework for identifying and managing the risk has really gone up. We should not let it waver. Banks must have three lines of defenses. That is the first and foremost is business functions, which are the risk takers and owners of the risk, have the responsibility of managing the risk generated by their day-to-day business activities, especially in the credit cell or in the foreign exchange cell. If you are sitting there, the business function is your prime function. You must do it very diligently as per the laid down norms. The mid office, the compliance functionaries, should report everything on time. And then the cross-checking authorities who do internal audit and various other cross-checks, they should do it very, very, faithfully to the organization and to the policies of the board, rather than to the person who has taken the decision. Collectively, if these three functions are complied, there will be wonderful ethical ambience created in the bank. Friends, we also find that the monitoring functions have become subdued. The internal audit, only day yesterday, there's an article in the business line published by Hindu from Chennai, that the internal audit has failed to deliver in banking system, because the NPAs, the frauds have been ever increasing. As such, we have to now inculcate the art of risk-based internal audit, which most of the banks, including banks participating here, have also now embraced, and they are conducting this risk-based internal audit depending on each decision which has been taken. whether it is for acquisition of fixed asset or a credit decision or accepting bulk deposits, all those aspects, these risk-based internal auditors are evaluating and telling us suggestions. So this also should be strengthened along with the various other risk managements, for which RBI guidelines about the credit exposure on groups, on individuals, on various people who have very bad record in credit history with other banks. All these should be, sort of encompassed while evaluating a credit request from such people. Friends, the bank boards as submitted, they have slightly become ineffective. Uh, RBI in 2020, as early as 2020, has proposed substantial improvements to the board governance framework of banks to empower the board of directors to set the culture and values of the organization, recognize the and manage the conflict of interest, set the appetite for risk and manage risk within the appetite. Most of the boards, they are more busy in credit decisions rather than, providing ethical guidance to the bank. They should not get involved into the day-to-day activity of the bank. Rather, they should, clearly articulate long-term policies which will position the bank in a position of strength and good image before the customers. The containment of recalcitrant distressed accounts, is still a challenge, but it should not take the whole time of the board. Otherwise, they will turn ineffective. Bank boards have been found, wanting in improvement of supervisory oversight of senior management. We have to strengthen that. We have also to achieve a clear division of responsibilities between board and the management. The executive part should be left to the management, and the policy making part should be always only focused by the board, and there should be a separation of ownership from the management of the bank through board of directors. There is a need to strengthen the bank boards. They should focus on strategic and vital issues. The time allocated to essential agenda items is often found to be inadequate. There are a lot of table items. All these, should be treated as unethical things unless they are extremely warranted. Otherwise, the focus of the board is weakening and the operations of the banks are suffering. The board also needs to work cohesively. Bank board should be board driven, and it should not end up being dominated by individuals. You find some boards, the managing director of the bank, will dominate, and others will simply say yes, yes, no. Experience has shown that this leads to undesirable consequences. And there should be a proper awareness training to the board of directors and senior leadership of any bank to familiarize them with IT and various cybersecurity concepts, which are new challenges to the bank. And the board must look at cyber risk as an enterprise-wide risk management issue rather than a pure IT issue. Adequate and required levels of investments in technology should be ensured in board. They should not save on technology just to show better profits. Whether the institution has appropriate skills, resources, and approaches to minimize the cyber risk and mitigate damages that may occur is also to be, seen and ensured. Friends, there is a scope of government improvement, governance improvement, and need of the hour is to empower the board of directors to set the culture and values of organization, recognize and manage conflicts of interest, set the appetite for risk and manage risks within the appetite. Nobody should, be given liberty to put the hard-earned, deposits of the bank into risky assets, and failing the above, Indian banks will remain ethically deficient in achieving the world-class stature. Friends, the expectations from supervisors, an ethical bank is expected to have effective management and support from top. Top management has a crucial role in value creation, strengthening public confidence, enhancing reputation, and maintaining its business integrity. The board should assure functioning of direct and unfettered access. They should be accessible. The tone from the top should set the pace for an organization culture that values honesty and integrity. Appointment and removal of head of audit and risk compliance function should have stringent barriers. Just because somebody, auditor has commented adversely on a decision should not be a reason to remove him. And these decisions of removal of such people should be independent of executive management. Friends, ethical responsibility of middle management, in which most of our participants today they fall, is the bank board needs concise, accurate, and timely reports from you to help it perform its fiduciary responsibility. Unless you feed the middle management who is, sitting at branches, the real place of banks, what the bank means to the public is only the branch. So you have to, accurately and timely report all the developments, all the feedbacks to top management so that your bank becomes stronger. Reporting authorities in banks are ethically bound to report: is the bank's strategic plan realistic for bank circumstances? Is the bank's business risk taking aligned with the approved risk appetite? Is management meeting the goals established in the planning process? Friends, do earnings result from implementing planned bank strategies, or transactions generating short-term gains but long-term risk? That has to be, told to the management that this policy or giving loan to infrastructure or giving loan to finance companies may result in harm, or may result in creating competitors which will harm your business. So do policies and procedures safeguard against conflicts of interest, insider frauds, or abuses? Does the bank have sufficient capital to support its risk profile and business strategies? I went to a bank where, a proposal for 1,500 crore was being prepared to a credit card company. I said, what is your internal exposure norm? He said 750 crores. I said, why do you have to give? Credit card business is an unsecured business. And we have seen that hardly 2 or 3 companies in India have now survived being in credit card business. Maybe even the Citibank, has sold out its business to Axis Bank now. So why you won't take exposure in the credit card business, which has no security there? So somehow I could persuade them to come back within their exposure norms and not move the board or the government to take unnecessary exposure in risky business. So the ethical responsibility of the middle management is to tell the management that such decision may ultimately harm the interest of the bank and ultimately that of the customers and the staff members. Friends, ethics are life and soul of banks. Without the ethics, there is no bank. An ethical, efficient, and vibrant financial system is crucial to the country's economic development and social harmony. You have seen, I went to Greece the other day, it's a capital called Athens. There I saw lines, of people before ATMs, which were longer than I've seen any lines in my, and then there was a restriction to draw only 2,000 euros per hit, because the country's economy is gone to dogs because of the non-exercise of ethical conduct by the various economic players there, including banks. So friends, we do not want such queues outside our banks where people should make a run on the bank. An ethical governance framework plays a central role in value creation for stakeholders and ensures the board's oversight and the risk appetite and culture of the bank. Friends, moral internal defenses, they're very, very crucial. They help build a strong, resilient, and a disciplined bank, which expands its benefits of sustained growth and creates customer confidence. Friends, an ethical ambience inside a bank preempts supervisory actions and attendant reputation risk if the transgressions are detected. No one can bank on a bank with no ethics. Only people bank on a bank which has ethical standards. Even in businesses, you've seen only those businesses survive over generations which have ethics of business. Others, they come, make some profit and fade away into, ignominious stature. Friends, the language, the communication language at workplace should also be very, very ethical. If there are any precious intangible assets in a bank's balance sheet, it is ethics. If you analyze a balance sheet, it will have a lot of assets, a lot of goodwills, but all those will, evaporate if you do not have ethics as the intangible asset, which is probably not visible in balance sheet, but it is felt by the person who is reading that particular bank's balance sheet. I suggest that each bank should have a chief ethics officer. I'm happy that Bank of Baroda has already started doing, SBI has it, and other banks are also in the process of appointing such chief ethics officers, because good things have to be repeated again and again to inculcate the art of ethics and discipline into the practicing bankers. Our body language, behavior, recovery, and compromise settlement should all be articulated through ethical communications. Ethical conduct should not be the front office job, friends. It should be job of the entire bank, and only then we can create a world, worth living, without worries, without insults, and without humiliations. Friends, I would like to close my presentation with the present small story. Mr. Gulati will permit me a few more minutes. There is a story of this great man called Karna. All of us know this. He was the most crucial warrior in Mahabharata, and he stood between the 5 Pandavas' victory over 100 Kauravas. The story goes that Karna had created a sort of impression about him that he was the biggest donor ever born. Whosoever came to him asking for help was helped by him. So when, despite being sixth brother of Pandavas, when Kauravas requested him to support them in their war against Pandavas, which were guided by Lord Krishna himself, this gentleman committed to Kauravas and fought till end. On the penultimate day of the war, that was the 17th day of Mahabharata war in Kurukshetra, this gentleman, was indefeatable. Large number of arrows were thrown on his body from all sides by the soldiers of Pandavas, but he was not giving in. Ultimately, at the advice of Lord Krishna, Arjuna used a very, very big weapon wherein, more than 1,000 arrows came out and, went into the body of Karna at the same time. And then, he simply fell on the ground and was unconscious. At this stage, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that Karna was supposed to be the biggest donor. He never denied, giving help to the person who came to ask for a help to him. So Lord Krishna immediately turned himself into a Brahman and went to the dying Karna asking for some money. Now Karna was bleeding all over. He had fallen on the ground. But seeing a passionate Brahmin near him asking for something, he withdrew one of the arrows from his body and immediately broke his tooth, which was having gold. And that tooth, he gave to Lord Krishna. He said, okay, even at this dying hour, you want something to be donated? Here it is. But then, Lord Krishna wanted to test him more. Lord Krishna said, no, this is a dirty tooth. It is having your blood. It is having your saliva. I want something cleaner. This gentleman pulled another arrow off his bleeding body and stuck it very deep on the ground, and a water fountain started emerging where the teeth was washed by him and then given. Friends, this was the ethics he had described for himself and set for himself in his life, that he will, till end of his life, till his last breath, observe whatever he has promised to himself to be a biggest donor. All of us, when we join bank, are also answerable to proper ethical behavior to our customers. I'm sure Mr. Gulati has started this process of sharing these ethical practices, and I'm sure each one of you will take home. And tomorrow, when you sit on your desk on a Monday, you will start practicing and make a difference in your behavior, so that Indian banking, becomes a place where every customer comes laughing in and goes back smiling because of ethical services. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm grateful to all of you for giving your valuable time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Everything about business ethics in business, ethics in banking have been described with a lot of illustration, anecdotes, and examples. Very interesting and very informative and very educative session. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, participants, for spending your valuable time with us. The only thing which is required to run a bank is ethics. If you have ethics, the other things follow. Ramayana says, Raghukul Reet Sada Se Chali Ai, Pran Jaye Par Vachan Na Jaye. When you join a bank, you take an undertaking to serve the customers with clean hands. As such, remain committed to that. If you do that, you will be the chairman and managing directors of banks of tomorrow. All the best. Thank you very much and good night.